CNN, 22nd of March 2024, a high-altitude tunnel is the most recent source of tensions along the India-China border. India has begun bolstering its infrastructure to stave off Chinese aggression as a defense against a belligerent China. An ongoing border dispute between Beijing and New Delhi has escalated, including a tunnel built high in the northeastern Indian highlands. Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India opened the Sela Tunnel earlier this month. It has been praised as an engineering marvel, blasting through the Himalayas at an elevation of about 13,000 feet, 3,900 meters, and a military advantage, providing quicker, all-weather access to a tense de facto border with China. Beijing is taking notice of this, as the two nuclear-armed superpowers have been at odds recently over their long-standing 2,100-mile, 3,379-kilometer, border dispute with New Delhi. This includes the events of 2020 when combat between the two sides in Aksai Chin-Ladakh in the western portions of the border claimed the lives of at least 20 Indian and 4 Chinese soldiers. The disagreement resulted in war decades ago. Even though Arunachal Pradesh, the Indian state where the tunnel was built, has long been an Indian province, China claims the region as its own. Chinese authorities have been critical of the tunnel project and Modi's recent visit to the state, alleging that New Delhi is attempting to sabotage border peace. "We demand that the Indian side stop taking any steps that could complicate the boundary dispute." Using the fanatical Chinese term for Arunachal Pradesh, Zangnan, or South Tibet, a defense ministry spokeswoman stated this week that the Chinese military remains highly vigilant and will resolutely defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Retaliating against Beijing's absurd claims, India declared on Tuesday that the region is and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. During a press conference on Wednesday, the U.S. State Department added its voice, supporting India's sovereignty over Arunachal Pradesh and expressing strong opposition to any unilateral attempts to advance territorial claims by incursions or encroachments across the de facto border, also known as the Line of Actual Control, LAC. Beijing also retaliated against this, charging that Washington makes no effort to provoke and take advantage of other countries to serve its selfish geopolitical interests. The argument, which highlights the intense animosity between the two most significant nations in Asia, occurs just weeks before India's national elections, which are predicted to approve of Modi's Hindu nationalist agenda handily. Growing nationalism under Modi has coincided with a similar trend in China under leader Xi Jinping, who has overseen an assertive foreign policy. However, in the wake of the tragic encounter in 2020, both sides have made attempts to diffuse tensions along the border. In addition, Modi visited Bhutan on Friday as part of a visit aimed at further cementing the India-Bhutan partnership. As he stated on the social media site X, there is a disputed border between the isolated Himalayan nation and Arunachal Pradesh, and New Delhi has been cautious about a possible settlement between the leaders of those two countries over that disagreement. "We disagree strongly." Modi highlighted several other development projects, particularly those related to border infrastructure, while in Arunachal Pradesh earlier this month, hailing the Sela Tunnel as an engineer marvel. These initiatives are a part of his government's efforts to develop Indian land along the disputed border. Beijing has indicated that it will be closely monitoring this endeavor, which goes against the Indian government's belief that improving the rugged terrain would prevent Chinese invasion or expansion. Over half of the 118 projects India's Bind ISOTS organization started last year to construct airfields, bridges, and roads were in Arunachal Pradesh and Ladakh, close to the disputed border with China. With this development, Beijing has charged India with complicating the boundary question and disrupting the situation in the border areas between the two countries. However, analysts note that India is correcting an imbalance that resulted from decades of Chinese infrastructure and road construction, which gave Beijing a considerable advantage over New Delhi when it came to sending troops to border regions and building hundreds of shilkong, or villages, which Beijing disputes are constructed to bolster its territorial claims. India is building more quickly now that it understands the advantages of border infrastructure and is catching up to China. However, according to Byron Chong, a research associate at the Singapore-based Center on Asia and Globalization at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, its actions likely exacerbate tensions with Beijing, motivating Beijing to step up its construction efforts. Given the sensitive nature of the region, which is along the line of actual control, Beijing has probably paid particular attention to the Sela Tunnel, which connects the states of Assam and Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. New Delhi says the project will boost the armed forces' P-forceness. According to Indian police, There was a non-lethal altercation between the two sides in Tawang at the end of 2022. Next, by attempting to cross the Lak, New Delhi charged that troops from China's People's Army were seeking to unilaterally and alter the status quo. But given Tawang's significance in Tibetan Buddhism and China's worries about the Dalai Lama's succession, Beijing may also find Tawang particularly significant, according to Manoj Kwalramani, head of Indo-Pacific Studies at the Takshashila Institution Research Center in Bangalore. Since a failed revolt against Chinese rule in Tibet in 1959, when Beijing clamped down on religious practice and attempted to assert its dominance over Tibetan Buddhism, the 88-year-old Dalai Lama has lived in exile in India. A lot of the current strain on Arunachal Pradesh is a result of the expectations surrounding the timing of that event. With regard to what possible consequences might be and how China wants India to react to it, he stated. However, despite China's efforts to solidify its territorial claims in its official language and maps and the two sides building initiatives, diplomatic efforts have been undertaken to diffuse tensions in the wake of the deadly 2020 incident. Modi and Xi decided to intensify efforts to de-escalate tensions during a meeting held in South Africa in August on the fringes of the BRICS conference. The militaries of China and India have also persisted in holding border discussions. At their most recent meeting, which was held last month, they reaffirmed their commitment to maintain peace and tranquility.